Wait,
Wait, wait, wait, wait.
Well, my name is Latanya Anderson.
Wait, wait.
You're listening
You're
to
listening to
WKDW Radio
Radio
97.5
97.5
and
and
KDWRadio.com,
KDW.com,
broadcasting from
broadcasting
the
from the
West
West
Real Estate
Real
Mobile
Estate
Tower
Mobile.
right here in Northport, Florida. And I found my echo. Latanya, you're my echo, unfortunately, and that's okay, but I'm going to bring you on in a second. So, what I'm going to do with you is I'm actually going to mute you and then ask questions, but I'm going to start out with Joan. And let's talk a little bit about your volunteer battalion. How about that?
Team.
Yeah, well, battalion. You know, I went with battalion because of Veterans Day. You know,
Okay.
and you've got a great team and a great effort that's coming in there, right? And you kind of have to have this approach of a unit going for success, don't you?
Yes.
So
Thank you.
go ahead.
Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Joan Derrig-Heacox. I'm the volunteer coordinator for CARE, Center for Abuse and Rape Emergencies in Charlotte County. I'm also the sexual victims advocate, and I'm the one that gets to work with these amazing, wonderful women that you're going to meet today. And yes, I work very hard to create a team because we know if you want the dream to work, you've got to have a team. And teamwork makes the dream work.
It is fantastic. So I'm going to mute you, but I'm going to bring Latanya on. Latanya, how are
Latanya,
you?
how are you?
Hi, I'm okay. I just hope it's not echoing too bad.
Well, I've
Well,
kind of got,
kind of
I've
got
got you figured out. I'm
out.
the only
I'm the only
echo,
echo,
but
but
go ahead and
go ahead
introduce
and introduce you.
Hi, I'm Latanya Anderson, and I work for CARE as a volunteer. I've been volunteering for 4 years at CARE.
And
And
so
so
tell me a little
tell me
bit
a little
about
bit
what
about
you
what
do
you
at CARE.
do at CARE.
Well, I do the hotline. I used to do the hospital response. I go for outreach programs also.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
So you've
So
got
you've got
a lot that
a
you
lot
do,
that you
correct?
do, correct?
Yes, I also sometimes do some training too for them on the hotline.
So
So
what is it
what is
like to
it
work
like
the
to work
hotline?
the hotline?
Well, it's more of with me, with the women and men that call in. At the time when they call in, they need somebody to listen to them and try to guide them because they're traumatized. They're not thinking sometimes for themselves. So you have to advocate for them.
So
So
during the
during
time
the
that
time
you
you
do the
do the
hotline,
hotline,
do you ever
do you
feel
ever
stressed?
feel stressed?
No, not me. I've always had the gentle voice. I've always had the caring voice that people, I can comfort them. I never ever get stressed out on the hotline.
And I asked
And
you
I
that
asked that
for a
for a
reason.
reason.
So you've
So
got
you've got
a,
a,
a lot of
a lot of
different
different
situations that happen
situations that
on a
happen on
hotline,
a
right?
hotline, right?
Yes.
And people
And
need to
people need to
understand,
understand,
and we've
and
talked
we've
about
talked
this
about this
on
and
and for
for
like 3 or 4
like three
years
or
now,
four years
we've
now we've
discussed it.
discussed it.
But to have
But to
somebody
have
on
somebody
the
on
hotline
the
and have
hotline
the
and have
voice
the
in the air,
air,
is
is
this
this
kind of
kind
the
of the
same
same
approach that you have
approach
the
that you
phone
have the
calls
phone
to?
call?
Yeah. It's the same. All across the board, it's really the same because you're there to help them in any way that you can help them. And we just try to assure them that we are there for them.
So your
So
approach
your
is
approach
kind
is
of level-headed
level
across
headed
the board,
across
isn't
the board.
Very, very level headed. I think I'm level headed because it's my passion and I like doing what I do.
I'm going to
I'm
bring
going to
Joan
bring
back
Joan
in.
back in.
And Joan, I want you to talk a little bit about Letitia and her role and why it's so valuable.
Okay, so Latanya's role
Oh, Latanya,
currently,
right.
Latanya, yes. Latanya works on the hotline, and one of the reasons that she is so good at it is, first of all, she's been doing it for 4 years every week. She has a shift, it's usually Thursday afternoons that she's on the hotline, and she's been doing it for 4 years. So she's got a lot of experience. She knows what resources we have as victim services for our clients. And also, she's very well versed on the community resources. So she can help them in our community to get resources that they need. And again, the most important thing is just listening, and she's an excellent listener. And Latanya also does a great deal of research, and she can share a little bit about that. She's great at researching and understanding different cultures that we
Awesome.
encounter.
I'm going to unmute you. And Latanya, can you hear me
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
So we're still getting an echo, but tell us a little bit about the research you do.
Well, what it is that I understand that in other countries or even people, I did research on Native American people and on the reservation because they have a different criteria than we have as far as reporting domestic violence. So I did research on that and found it very interesting how it's so different than the way we do it. And it's only because they're Native American, they live on the reservation, and they have certain criteria that they have to follow.
Well, let's stick there for a second. The criteria that they have to follow is based upon
Their
their
heritage.
heritage, right?
Yes.
So I've dealt with some of the Native Americans in the upper echelon of decision making, and there is a flow there, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Yes,
Can
there
can
is. And
can you
it
talk a
just
little bit about that?
well, it just shows how it doesn't matter if you're Native American, it doesn't matter if you're in Nigeria. Everybody is going through the same thing when it comes to domestic violence. It's just that in certain countries or with certain cultures, um, they just react to it differently. And sometimes they're shunned for even discussing it. They're not even supposed to discuss it. So I've done a lot of research on it and saw how, if they're Native American, they have their own police force. They have everything that's right there on the reservation. And they don't take it so serious with domestic violence. And somebody has to really advocate for them.
There is a complete culture change there that you have to deal with, correct?
Complete.
And
Complete.
so we've talked about the past and how we've changed things into the future. Do you see those same changes happening, or are they happening at a much slower clip within the
If we're
Native
still
American?
talking about Native American, it's still somewhat slower, but they're now taking it more serious. They are now doing more for the women. And I always speak saying not just women, because men also are abused too. So I never try to exclude them out. But I'm just saying it's totally different. And now they're getting more involved. They're getting more people to advocate for them. They're making it a forefront now, and I'm glad that they're doing that.
This kind of shows where we were, where we're at now, and
Yes.
yet if you go across country to country to country, we're kind of leading people down that path of
Exactly.
change.
Exactly. I've done research even with Canada, how that is so different than here too. But yeah, research is my passion as far as understanding different cultures, different countries, and everything with domestic violence.
How has that
How has that
cultural
cultural
insight
insight
helped you
helped you
here
here
on the
on
phone
the phone
Well, it
with the
makes
with
hotline?
the
me
hotline?
understand because we can get a call from a Native American woman or man. We can get a call from somebody that, Florida is a multicultural state. So it's no telling who lives here and everything. So it helped me to understand when they do call me and I do find out if they're Native American or whatever, it helps me. It helps me to be able to give them the resources that they need or to help them in any way.
Hear you, John.
Hey, John.
We cannot hear you, John. You're muted. You muted yourself.
I didn't, but I did. I didn't, but I did. How about that?
You got
I've
muted.
been I've been muting and unmuting and doing all kinds of things.
That's all
Is
right.
there anything you'd like to add in though about what Letitia was talking about? I want to make sure we get the leadership side of that in there too.
Yes, really value Latanya and all that she brings to our organization. First of all, the longevity. She's been there for over 4 years and has worked in hospital response. She worked out at the mall in an annex out at the Charlotte County Town Center Mall. So she was out there for quite a while and also now on our hotline in our main office, in our admin building, in our call center. And so Latanya helps us remember because she's always telling me what she's recently looked up and found out and explored. And she helps me to stay on top of the fact that like Florida is a multicultural community, and even within Charlotte County. So we have different cultures, we have different ways of thinking. So not everybody thinks the same way as I do, or Latanya does, or Tracy or Pat. So making sure that we stay on open to the needs of others and their cultures, being aware of cultural differences is what really Latanya helps us remember. And sorry, I have that light saving device that
Yes, you
keeps
do.
turning off
You're
every
saving all,
15 minutes.
we're not going to talk about green energy right now,
Yeah, but
but
that's what's happening.
so
I've asked them to fix it and they won't because they can't.
I have to apologize to Latanya because I think I've said Letitia multiple times, and I don't know a Letitia, and you're my first Latanya. So I have no idea where that's all coming from today. But I wanted to make sure I apologize to you and at least got
He's
that
got
word.
that word.
Um,
Um,
Latanya,
Latanya,
Yes.
got it
Body.
right.
So
So
as far
as far
as
as
everything that you
everything
just
that
put
you
in, how
put
many
in, how
years
many
do you
years
have?
do you have?
How many years do I have
Hmm?
with care?
Hmm?
Maybe 4.5 years now,
Okay.
Okay.
close to 5. I joined and I volunteered for care um, because I wanted to understand why I also had to get help. And they helped me so much that I wanted to give back. So that's why I'm doing it. That's why I'm passionate about it. And that's why I will never leave them. I will stay with them forever.
So you've
So
been
you've
through
been
this.
through this.
I've been through it. So I
So
understand when people call me. I think that's one of the key things about me because it was hard. It's hard for some people to come forefront and be honest about it.
what would you
What
tell
would you tell
somebody who
somebody
needs
who
to
needs
call?
to call?
Please call us. There's help for you. You are not by yourself. There's people that will listen to you and not judge you. just call the hotline and come see us for we can help you.
So,
So,
Joan, I'm going
Joan,
to
I'm
bring
going
you
to bring
in
you in
and
and
mute Latanya real quick. So, is there anything you want to add, or would you like to introduce our next guest?
Okay, so um, Latanya has worked, I think, at least 20 hours a month, if not much more, for the last 4.5 years. And I just want to commend her on that. And what a valuable volunteer she is. She keeps me sharp, and I really love that about her. And so thank you, Latanya, so much. Actually, I thought she was an employee when I first came on board. I thought Latanya was an employee because she was there all the time, and I didn't know she was a volunteer. It took me a while before I figured that out. Anyway, the next volunteer, and I believe Marcia says she's in or in
Yeah.
your green room, waiting room. The next volunteer I'd like to introduce is going to be Tracy. So Tracy came on board at about the same time that I was hired into CARE. And so she was one of my first volunteers that I brought on board. And Tracy, if I can just say this, Tracy's got a voice now. And when she first came on and went through the training, which by the way, we'll talk about is quite extensive. These people, these volunteers have put in order to become a volunteer advocate, they have easily put in 75 to 100 hours of training to get to the point where they can really work with their clients and work successfully on the hotline, hospital response team, and outreach. Outreaches is where they start, but to really to do the client work, it's between 75 and 100 hours of volunteer training. So please, I hope you can appreciate what these women have gone through to be with us today, and these particular volunteer advocates. So Tracy went through the training just as almost at the same time I did, which was wonderful. And when she came in, she was very quiet and didn't say much. And the more that she has worked with us, she has become a powerful voice, and also a sweet presence on our hotline. So Tracy, I like Tracy to talk.
All right. So I'm going
I
to,
love all my volunteers.
fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and mute you so I don't get any feedback or try to attempt this. But Tracy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So give us a little background about yourself.
Okay, I've been at CARE for almost 1.5 years, I believe. I do hospital response, and I work in the Inglewood office twice a week, answering hotline calls. Um, I really enjoy what I do, and I'm really passionate about it. I love people, and we get them when they're most vulnerable, and we give them hope that it will get better.
So, people hear the words, and Latanya said some things, and one of the things I like about doing this show is to try to encourage people, if they need just someone to vent to, at least get the conversation started with. What's your piece of advice if somebody has thoughts in their heads that things aren't exactly going correctly? What would be your piece of advice for that person?
I would say call us, vent to us. We're 24/7 hotline, and it's 100% confidential. So clients appreciate that because they're a little maybe be ashamed, whatever they're feeling at the moment. I assure them that they can talk to us and it's okay. It's
What
confidential.
what do you how do you deal with the phone calls that you take, because they're not your normal everyday phone calls, the hey best friend, how you doing type of phone calls, but how do you deal with that? What is it that you bring that really kind of helps them open up?
Um, I talk to them and listen to them like a friend would, like a best friend, and um, offer services that we have, resources that we have to help them realize that they're not alone. Like Latanya said, they're not alone.
And the beauty in what you just said, and I think it's the first part. And I know I've got Joan muted because I know we're going to get some echo. But one of the things I'm paying attention to is that you were listening, and
Yes,
that's a real big key with somebody who's attempting to make that either a first initial phone call or follow up phone calls thereafter. Is that they're trying to get somebody to listen to what they're saying, and then try to guide them through some help, right?
yes, absolutely.
And
That's what it's all about.
the fear that one must have to even make the call because of what they're in. Don't you try to take the fear out of being on the phone with that person?
Yes, we establish rapport with them so they feel comfortable talking with us.
And,
Like offering like counseling if they need that. We have one-on-one counseling or um, economic justice. We have different resources that we're able to offer them so they can try to get back on their feet after whatever has happened to them, as well as they can always call back too if they're not sure.
and as far as your hospital response side, because there's a real vital part of what you guys are doing, one on the phone, but the second side of that is the response that you guys have at the hospital. Being part of that process, can you explain why you want to take and kind of reduce the fear of that and let people know that they have some, I think, some allies to count on?
Yes, being advocate, um, I help get what they need. If they're like, I talk with the nurses and the doctor, and I'm just there to listen to their story and thank them for telling me.
And
And
those first few minutes in the room are kind of valuable, aren't they?
absolutely,
And
yes,
having an advocate there, doesn't that help kind of take the stress and the communication levels to a better point? Maybe with a police officer who may be there.
yes, absolutely. So I'll talk to the police officer as well, but mostly I'm focused on what the client needs.
And I'm going to bring Joan in here real quick. I'm going to mute you real quick.
Sure.
Joan, is there anything you'd like to add in or have Tracy answer?
Tracy, I think she said it really, really well. Um, she's an excellent listener. And the reason it's so important for people who are in the midst of domestic violence or friends or family of domestic violence, people or sexual assault is that families cannot, they love you, but they cannot listen to the story and they can't listen to it over and over again. It's called vicarious trauma. They become traumatized and they don't have the skills to listen and to hear what they need to hear what the client needs us to hear. So they will often tell us, or the friends and family will often say, don't talk about it. And it's not because they don't love them or care. It's because they don't have the skill. They don't have the training to listen carefully. And you can see that Tracy is quiet because she's such a good listener. She doesn't interrupt. She has a lovely presence and people can just unpack their story. And we're trained to listen in a different way. We're trained to listen for the places of trauma. We're trained to listen so that they know and respond in a way like, yeah, I can hear where this might be difficult for you, or help them to identify an immediate problem that they can address and we can provide resources for, or connection within our own services or local resources. And so that's the great gift is not somebody that's like me, super outgoing, talk to everybody, but it's just somebody that can be there and listen and not be traumatized by what they hear, and all the training that we go through so we can be present to our clients.
What I kind of like is we've kind of got a we've had two guests on with you, and we do have a distinct blend on the attitude and the way they handle things, which is really cool because you're very diverse when it comes to that.
Yes.
Do the volunteers, when they get into a situation, do they ever hand off because maybe there's a better fit?
Sometimes that might happen in the early stages where they get to a point where they don't know what resources might be available for the client. They haven't learned everything. And if we always tell them they're volunteers and they're never there by themselves. When they do hospital response, they are by themselves, but they are not alone because we have care. They can always call care and call the hotline for resources, for backup, for support, to talk to a manager, either domestic violence or sexual assault manager, in case they need that. So they go out, but they've got all of care behind them and supporting them. So when they're on call, they're on the hotline, there's always another person there that can provide resources.
And
So Latanya's done that, and she's helped us train new on hotline and helpline people. And it's great to have Latanya there. She's ego support. She can get you through a call when you're struggling. I know Pat has been online as well. And but if it's okay, I just want to take a minute to share about Tracy. She also has done hospital response, and I think we're not allowed to share stories. So if they seem a little tight-lipped, it's because we can't tell you stories. So because of confidentiality, but she did a call, and sometimes we're there for 6 to 8 hours working with our clients, getting them through at a hospital, whether it's a sexual assault or domestic violence, and making sure that they're there so that we can support them when the police officer is standing there. We sometimes are their ego support. We hold their hand. We help them articulate what happened to them in a way so that when law enforcement, needs to hear the story, and is interviewing them, that we can help them articulate what happened to them, because how they tell the story, and again, we don't have to hear the story in a special order. We just have to hear the story, and the more they articulate it, and the story makes it so much better.
well,
So
and and I'm going to add something else. Not everybody's prepared to go on the radio and all the social media sites that we're blasting out to right now, and I'm pretty sure that most of the people who are volunteering right now don't do radio spots every day either, right? And I can tell by reactions they're not. Letitia's not being,
Latanya.
or Latanya. I got to find out who Letitia is. I have got to find out who I don't know yet. It's got to be somebody in my wife's class. I'm gonna have to ask because somewhere along the line that name has been in my head, and now I can't get it out. So I'm either gonna have to rename you, or and I know she's smiling at me, but I'm gonna go back to Tracy here real quick. Um, I just want to know, how many years of radio have you been doing?
I went to school for it.
Oh my God, that's awesome! I had no clue. So it's funny though, because there is some restraint that you have to take when you're talking about domestic violence, correct?
Yes.
And yet you still want to get a positive word out to see how to really get people to have less of a wall built up for making that essential call.
Yes.
So what is it? And Latanya gave a great insight to it, but what is it that you would say, because your words are different than hers? What is it that you would tell somebody to take their fear out of picking up the phone for the first time, to make a call and seek some advice?
That we're 24/7 hotline and helpline, and we're there to listen, and they can call back if they have to. It's the first call is the hardest, but I would suggest to try, and we'll listen and we won't judge you.
And it doesn't matter how long it is either, does it?
No.
That first phone call could be dial up and hang up. At least you made the choice to dial the number, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And so I'm gonna let you introduce Pat, and I really appreciate Latanya and Tracy, and see I got your name right, Latanya. Smile. Um, I can see that smile. It's glowing. I love it. So I'm gonna mute you, but I'm gonna go on to let you introduce Pat, Joan.
Hi again. Okay, so my next volunteer came to me with the big bright smile on her face and very, very excited about being involved in this care organization. And she came with a real strong passion and an interesting and what she does for us. So the next volunteer I'd like, by the way, she is on vacation and is taking time away from her mountain vacation with her family to be with us today for this hour. So my next volunteer is Pat Chance. Again, all of my volunteers are beautiful and amazing. So Pat, I'd like to introduce Pat to you.
Well, first,
Good.
thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate this wonderful opportunity. And Joan actually called me this morning and said, "Hey, I've got this wonderful opportunity for you, and I would not want to miss it." So thank you. I totally appreciate being on your show.
Well, thank
And
you
I
so much. Go ahead.
No, and I was just going to say I've been with CARE now since really I reached out probably last February, but I believe when everything got connected, Joan and I met in March, and my journey began with CARE from that point forward. And I am absolutely thrilled to be an advocate for CARE. It is a passion, very deep passion.
And
So thank
so
you.
what is it that made it such a passion for you?
Well, I have to tell you how my journey actually began. And really it started with fitness and then it ended up being pageantry. And if you don't know, pageantry, it's more than it's not a beauty show. So please disregard that thought. With pageantry, you have to have a platform, a mission. And for me, it was so easy to identify what my passion and my mission in life from this point forward is. And that is to support women and children who are victims of abuse. So I established that first and foremost before I reached out to Joan at CARE. I knew CARE for many, many years. We moved to Punta Gorda about 7 years ago, and I have always had my eye and been involved in events that CARE has offered. For instance, they have an annual ball, and that's what really drove my passion. I knew what they stood for. I knew that this is an organization that I needed to wrap my head and arms around. And so I reached out to Joan, and from there, as she had mentioned, it was hours and hours of training. And I do have to say, in the very beginning of my training, I had weeks of crying as well, because there are personal things too, just like Latanya. There's a reason why I have this passion, and it is very personal. And I will share it if you would like me to do that. And but I'll ask if you want to hear more why it's so personal, I will share it with you.
I think it's important.
So when my son was 13, he had just turned 13, and he's now 44 years old. So that's how many years ago it was. On his 13th birthday, we were out celebrating, and my husband, he was coming from work, so he had his car My son was with him. My daughter was with me. We leave the celebration for my son's birthday, and my husband actually witnesses a rape in progress, and he broke it up. And then he got stabbed 3 times because of that. So that's where my passion is coming from. It's so deep and ingrained, just knowing that he was able to save somebody during that critical moment. It first, when I first met with Joan, I actually didn't realize how deep it was inside of me, that I wasn't even able to recover until I actually met with Joan. And I am so grateful for that, because I had to work through some things myself. And so with that, now I feel like I can reach out and embrace the victims, the survivors who call. I work the hotline. I am on hospital response team, and I do outreach. And I am so passionate about what I'm doing right now. I feel like I have purpose, and I feel overwhelmed, like my heart is overwhelmed with empathy and trying to help the victims.
So that story that you told is moving. And I appreciate you being, bold enough and brave enough
Thank you.
to say it. And the fact that you're showing other people that you can tell the story, you can appreciate it, and you can give back in support of it, is truly Latanya, and what she's gone through, and Tracy and what she does, and Marcia and what she does. And we haven't talked to Marcia yet, but when we started this years ago, we have educated people. We have talked about journeys. We have talked about what people go through at CARE, how they volunteer, how they can be part of it. But you just put love and passion in, and you all have in a real quick hour, less than an hour, of really explaining what the word care is, outside of the word care, believe it or not. You have to have the passion, the drive, and the commitment when you volunteer. And if people don't understand the family that you guys have that are all volunteering, and if they don't see the value of being part of it, there's something to be said about one, having Joan there, but
Our leader.
I'm quite positive that it doesn't end with Joan. So, and I love Joan. She knows that.
We all do.
we talk on and off the air. I think we talk off the air longer sometimes than we talk on the air. But the beauty in what you just did was that you made everything real. Latanya made it real. Tracy made it real. We're going to talk to Marcia and hear what she has to say. But what would you tell somebody if they've gone through this, and the fact that you have gone through it, buried it, and then found out you can let it go? What is the value there for you on a personal level?
On a personal level.
Yeah, because you were real. You were you lost your emotion during what you were saying.
Absolutely.
And so, what is the real thing for you?
Well, as you know, and I do have to share my passion and my experience. It really goes even a little bit further and deeper. And I probably don't want to talk about that part in detail,
Okay.
only to let you know that I've had a family member who actually had sexual violence. And so it even goes deeper than my husband. So there is so much, you know, and unfortunately, the thing on the personal side is a lot of times what you find is people say, let's not talk about it. Let's brush it under the rug. Let's pretend it didn't happen. Well, it happened, you know. So, my advice to people who are listening and anybody out there is you got to talk about it and you got to do something about it. You cannot go silence because the abuser is went free on our part, on our side, because it was let's not let's not bring it up, let's not talk about it, let's hide it. And now where I am today, I know that was so wrong. You have to talk about it, you have to do something about it. You can't brush it under the rug. It has to be out in the open, and you have to talk about it, and you have to address it. That's
Well,
what I've learned.
it
Thank
and
you, Pat.
I appreciate everything you're saying, and the fact that you were willing to say it gives a lot of hope for people who aren't in a position to say anything. And that's the value of what we're doing right now. So
That's it.
your voice, while it was quiet before, you just got
Not
a lot.
now.
You just got a lot louder,
Mm-hmm.
and really,
Mm-hmm.
the key to this whole thing is being loud enough just to get
Yes.
somebody who's in trouble to listen.
If I can help one person,
Yep.
I've
Well,
done good.
and see, I'm going to make you smile. I just wish you would.
I'm sorry.
See, I have to listen. I'm that guy that's going to have to bring it out of you, but I
Yeah.
also want to give you a radio hug and a show hug because all of those things that you just did, um, it's real. It's why we do these shows. It's why you were invited on the show, and it's why you do what you do every day.
Absolutely.
Latanya, Tracy, Marcia, and I'm going to make Latanya smile, and even Letitia, whoever's out there. Um, hopefully, there's a volunteer out there named.
You're
But
being called.
you're being called big time right now because it's kind of fun to have the serious side and then pop in and smile and let everybody see the laughter because truthfully that's kind of what you have to do to release some of this negative
Mhm.
energy. Wouldn't you agree, Pat?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
So I'm going to go back to Joan. Would you like to add anything in for Pat?
Well, I will just add that we do work. We do work with each other. We always debrief
Hmm.
so that we can talk through the things that are happening to us. When we're working with clients, sometimes it'll remind us of something that happened to ourselves or our family. And it creates an opportunity for us to heal from that. And so we're
Mm.
all in this journey of healing and growing and helping and caring for each other. And that's why we're a team, because we can't do it alone. Just like our clients and
Mm-mm.
the people that are victims, when you're alone, it feels hopeless and helpless. And that's what abusers want.
Mm.
They want their victims to be alone and isolated and feel unworthy or shamed or negated. And we're here to do the opposite of that. And I always believe that the right person calls and the right person answers the call, and you
Mm.
get what you need. And it's just a real powerful thing. So um, we do that, and we do have to, as volunteers, we all have to take care of each other. We have a
Mm-hmm.
monthly meeting that we go through. We debrief. Do case studies so that we can learn from our clients and help us to get better at what we do. We also do ongoing training all the time. And so our meeting is Wednesday. We have our upcoming meeting Wednesday from 1 to 3, so we can go through the work that we do and stay positive and end with a smile and a hug. And I think that's super important.
So we've got about
Um,
9 minutes left. I'm going to go ahead
Okay.
and you, Pat, but I'm going to let you introduce Marcia. And,
Okay.
and Marcia has been unmuted. So I'm going to try to unmute Pat at the same time. And maybe we won't get echo. And see how this goes with 3 of you. But I also want to add this in. I've known Joan now for probably close to 4 years, maybe 3, 4 years that we've been doing this, or close to 5, maybe even. I've lost track of time doing radio, but the other 4 I've never met before today. So, as you know, real talk is real talk. And we can't have real talk about domestic violence and human trafficking and other items out there, rape and prevention. We can't have any of those if we don't have platforms to do this on and be able to get this information and be able to let you hear and have the freedom to pick up a hotline and call. Just so you know, I have them scrolling on Facebook on Real Talk. So if you type in Real Talk on Facebook, you can see all the numbers, and we're going to give them at the end, I promise. But go ahead and introduce Marcia real quick.
Okay, just let me get my light back on. All right.
Let there be light.
You know, I can't do anything about it. I try. Anyway, so let me take this moment to introduce Marcia. Marcia is a volunteer. She started a little bit before I started working for CARE. And so she was also on that journey as well. And she's also a part-time employee. And I want to be, what happens is I feel like I develop in really a wonderful crew of people, a team of people, and then they hire them. So Marcia does both, and she's wonderful. I before we let Marcia speak, I want to let you know that this past year, because they just asked me to total up the volunteers. So we have about 20 active volunteers each month. We have about 20 currently active volunteers that are on a regular basis, real regular. And we're doing close to 500 volunteer hours a month. And now that we've got people on the team, we had about 35 last year, total volunteers that went through and met with me, and some just wanted to volunteer for a couple of times, and some like these here are ones that I depend on every single day, and I can always call on at the last minute. This past year, we did almost 4,000 hours of volunteer time in this past fiscal year, with 35 volunteers that have come through and volunteered in one capacity or another. We have 20 solid volunteers that are working with me on a team, serving care in lots of different functions. And I say that because Tracy does over 100 hours a month, every month. And also, even though Marcia works part-time, she's still putting in over 100 hours a month, every month. This is the core team. I still have other people. We have a man on board that's coming on board as an advocate. Just so you know, it's just not all females. And because this is the middle of the day, the volunteers that work full time, they're not here for that reason. And but my volunteers are just a most incredible team. And so I want to introduce Marcia Peterson. Go ahead, Marcia.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So you've been popping in and popping out. We've been messing with all kinds of sounds, but your relentlessness to get back on the air is probably what you show at CARE also, isn't it?
Yeah. We don't give up, do we, Marcia?
No.
You know that. So give us a little insight on who Marcia is.
Okay. I came to Florida retired. I am a widow and was looking for something to volunteer with and occupy a little bit of my time. I have been very fortunate in my life, and so I wanted to be able to give back to society in some way. And originally, I had started out with Guardian Ad Litem, which I am still part of. But through Guardian Ad Litem, I found out about CARE. And CARE resonated with me tremendously. I, like most of us, have had something happen in our lifetime where we have been a victim. And mine actually happened in college. And I was date raped in college. And I went to safety and security and went through the whole process of turning it in and making an incident report. And they pretty much shrugged their heads and said, you asked for it. You know, you did it yourself. You put yourself in that situation, and there's nothing we're going to do. And so I went through a little bit of counseling and then decided that I was just going to let it go and bury it in some ways and still have it with me in other ways. Now I am doing hospital response, and I also do some outreach, and I do occasionally volunteer as a hotline advocate as well. So I do all three of those. The hospital response is incredible. You get a call from you pick your own hours through Joan, and I try and fill in when I can. And I basically wait for the phone to ring, and someone, either the hospital, the victim, or the police, will call and say, we have somebody at the hospital. And so then I go, or one of us goes. We give them the whole idea of what their rights are, and we make sure that if they're not comfortable with something that someone is pushing upon them at the hospital, either through the law enforcement part of it or through the hospital itself, we're there to advocate for them, to say, no, she does not have to do this. If she does not want it, or he does not want it, then it doesn't happen. But we also try to encourage them in some ways, because sometimes that's the only opportunity you have to get DNA evidence and things like that. So we try to explain to them that that's, even though they're going through a lot of trauma right then, this is their opportunity. And they don't have, just because they do a DNA, we call forensic exam, does not mean that they have to file a report with the police. But the hospital keeps all that information, all that evidence, and they can change their mind down the road.
So I'm going to say this is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5 FM, Real Talk Radio. Join us on Facebook. We're going to continue for a few minutes, but I need to sign off the air. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on Friday. So in this conversation, the beauty of social media and blasting out to 10 different sites, while we have gotten a lot of great information out on the airways, we still have the social media sites up live and running, and viewers watching. And I'm going to ask you a different question than I asked for. And it has to do with more of the personal insight that you and others bring, but the temperament of how you approach things now that you've buried it, and then let it go, and then talked about it, and now continue to work in it. What is that for you?
It helps me to feel like I am providing someone with information so that hopefully the same thing does not happen to another person. And when it does, it doesn't end your life, that it just because someone doesn't believe you, we always believe. Every person who calls in, we believe their story. We believe that that's what happened. And we can connect with them because of that. And they feel heard.
So I'm gonna, oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's why I feel it's so important to say, I believe you right at the beginning, and make sure that they understand that they're being heard, and it's okay for other people not to believe you. That as long as someone is there to listen, it's important.
So I'm going to go to Joan real quick because there's a couple things that I find that to be relevant is that we've, like I said, for years have been talking now about domestic violence and rape and prevention and human trafficking and other topics. But no matter how much we talk about it and we say it's getting better, we actually have people right now on the air that are discussing this for others, and that's you four, really five, counting Joan. But you're giving a real backstories and telling people what you've been through. And we've said it's gotten better. We've shown through Latanya's research and her work that it's still delayed in the Native American culture. While we can boast about it getting better, there's still proof that we can do much more. I'm going to throw that to Joan and say, what is it that we are doing now to get more information out? Because I don't know that this is something we're going to win, but it's something we can continue to taper.
Okay, so domestic violence is a lot more than just, and sexual assault is a lot more than physical abuse. Oftentimes that's the sort of tip of the iceberg. Even sometimes the last resort for a man or a woman, but primarily it's men. It's about power and control. It's never about sex. It's never, ever about love. So if somebody hits you and says, I did it because I love you, or says you can't go anyplace because I'm protecting you, that's power and control. So until women have the right and the belief systems that they have the right, their basic human rights, and they have the right to make choices for themselves, how they want to live, who they want to marry, how how they want to raise their children, what type of job they want, what kind of home they want to live in or where they want to live, what kind of education they want. Until women have the right and they don't have to keep bumping their heads, banging their head against the wall, and being told that they can't, we will always have some level of abuse. So gender-based violence is what we're talking about, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, financial. Many women get into marital relationships for finance because they can't make enough money to live independently. There is a thought process out there that, a man makes more money, you get married, you don't need a good enough salary because somebody else is paying your way. And for many women, no one is paying their way, or they end up in abusive relationships and they can't get out of those relationships because they've been isolated, they've had limited education, they've lost all their friends in their network of family because of the abuse. They're traumatized. They don't even know how to get on a computer. They're not allowed to get a job. And so as long as those kind of things are happening and we're okay with it culturally, women will continue to be abused, whether it's in the United States, in an Native American community, whether it's in a very wealthy house, down the street, or a poor house. Domestic violence crosses, domestic violence is not prejudice. All women of all different backgrounds and nationalities and skin color and wealth levels experience domestic violence. I mean, you're looking at a nice variety right here of us that have gone through some form of, violence against our bodies and our brains and our emotions. And that's until that changes. Until that changes. So gender-based violence is what we're really talking about. Anything that limits a woman from living the life that she was created to live.
Well, I'm going to go to something LaTanya was talking about, because I've said this before on the show, and it's it's not the state of Florida always. We're not in the good number. I'd like to be like lower in the population of sexual abuse, rape, and prevention, and human trafficking. I would love to be 50 out of 50 states. But
we're 50 out of 50 the other way.
Yeah, I know. We're
at the highest level. We have more human trafficking in Florida than just about anywhere else in the United States.
I know, and it's like this melting pot. But I also want to go back to the cultural side of things, because I brought that up before. Is that and it was nice to hear insight on the cultural side from Native American side and understand that culture. But we have a lot of ethnic groups here from different countries that truly don't think women have rights when they get here, and the women don't believe they have rights when they get here. And we have to battle that insight too. And probably at this point, we have larger numbers than we've ever had like that. I know that in Northport, we have a huge foreign culture here on multi levels, and that is a problem when it comes to what the standard is for America. And what I'm not gonna blame foreigners or anyone for our numbers, but we also have to have case in point that we have to look at things across the board. And your jobs are not easy, because you're having to bridge that gap on education, not just with American speaking people, but you're going to have to do it across language barriers and then cultural barriers. And how are we working with that, Joan? Let me go. Hold on. I'm going to mute everybody. But Joan, go ahead. I'm going to bring you on, LaTanya.
So that's the importance of understanding different cultures and being involved in different cultures. That's part of our outreach. We work with different communities. I'll let LaTanya talk about the communities that she works in and where we show up. But we do a lot of outreach, and Laura Kine is our outreach volunteer, or outreach staff coordinator. And so our volunteers often will go out with Laura to different outreaches. And each one of you, if you want to say what you like to do, where your outreach is, I'll be glad to let you have a voice to that, because we all do some form of outreach. Go ahead, if LaTanya would like to.
Oh, I'm hold on. I'm gonna unmute her. Go ahead. LaTanya.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's where our outreach comes in. We go to all kinds of festivals. It can be just here now. Native American Heritage is now. A month ago, it was the Spanish, Puerto Rican one. We go to all these festivals. We give information out to everyone. And I think that's where our outreach program is helping more people culturally to understand that they have that kind of service for them.
So do you see the cultural barrier trying to describe?
See them divide?
No. Do you see them out in our area?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yes. Yes. And what I tell people, because sometimes, there's older people. It could be, I give them a pamphlet and I'll say, you can give it to your neighbor. You can give it to your grandchild. It might be somebody you might know need it. And that's how we get it out. And we don't care if they're Native American. We don't care because the abuse is all across the board. Like Joan said, it could be mental, it could be financial. We don't know. And especially in these days and times where things are going so hard for people now. There's so much homelessness. There's so much people that can't even afford to pay rent. A lot of people are suffering right now, and I know that when we had COVID, a lot of calls we got. And you'll be amazed of the calls we got in 2020. And it was because of COVID.
Well, there's nothing like being locked out with the one who eats you. How about that?
Yeah.
Um,
Love it.
there had to be a rise in violence during that time frame. Probably was unreported.
Yes, it was amazing. And the thing about that is the domino effect of COVID at that time, because it's still going on. COVID hasn't left, so we're still having those problems. But it was the turning point as far as I'm concerned, especially after doing this for so many years. I really saw the shift in 2020. And it was no age discrimination at all.
Well, I appreciate your feedback and insight there. I'm going to slide over to Pat because Pat's been shaking her head this whole time. So Pat, give a little insight on your side.
Well, I agree with what Latanya has said, and that's why I was shaking my head. She speaks the truth for sure. You know, again, I just feel like getting the message out is so important. Whenever I try to, when I'm out at an event, or if I'm around friends, or even social media, I try to get the word out about care, to not be afraid to talk about the things that we were always afraid to talk about in the past. I think you have to talk about abuse, you have to address it, and getting that message out about care, making sure that people know that there's a resource for them, that they don't have to be ashamed, that they are supported, and we do believe them. I think that is so important. And I know Marcia too is so passionate as well. I've gone to several outreach events with Marcia, and I know she is just as passionate as everyone on this call. But I'm going to pass the baton to Marcia and let her give her side of the story. So how do you like that?
Yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
Well, my biggest goal is to make sure that everyone that I come upon, especially with outreach and out socially, is to try and have everyone put our contact numbers in their phone, because you never know when you're going to come upon someone who might need those numbers, and you will have them. And I can't tell you the number of friends that I have made sure put it into their contact list on their phone. And every time I'm at an outreach program, I ask people, please, you know, it may not concern you right now, but you may come upon someone who does need our help. And we're certainly there. And that way you can pass on the information, the phone number. You don't have to say much, but just, you know, give them the phone numbers and let them make the decision of whether they want to call in or not.
Right.
And
And I think social media, the way we're using social media today, that has really helped me get my message out about care and to share stories and and to let them know that we're just a phone call away. So I think social media has really added a whole new twist about getting the word out about care. And I certainly try to use it to the maximum for sure.
so I do have one quick follow-up for you, Pat.
Yes.
How's your husband?
Oh, he's fine. He is so fine. In fact, he's right here. He's doing great. He really is. He is such a passionate man and such a caring person. I mean, he literally got out of the car and chased the guy down. So that just tells you the kind of man he is. And I can't tell you how many women have come to me and my husband and said, thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for not being afraid to chase him down. And that has so much makes my heart sorry, makes my heart, fills my heart. I'll just say that, knowing that I have my hero right next to me all the time. And he is a hero. He is.
Well, and there's something to be said with what you just said. The fact that he was not afraid to go.
Not afraid.
Don't be afraid to call.
Don't be afraid to call. That is so true. Don't
And,
be afraid to call.
and so I'm going to slide over to Tracy real quick. And I appreciate everything you said, Pat and Marcia.
Thank you.
No problem. You're welcome.
And so, Tracy, the ball is now in your court.
Okay.
So, what is it about the outreach side of things that really kind of get you going?
I know that we're getting the information out, our phone numbers out to the community so that they know that we're there and we're there for them, men, women, and it doesn't matter. It, like they said, it's across the board. It doesn't pick any certain people, culture.
So I'm going to guess something. You have a dog.
Okay, yeah, I have 4 of them.
Oh, so we're picking up paw tracks on the tile.
Oh yeah.
So somebody's excited.
Yeah.
So I'm going to slide back to Joan real quick and kind of end the show because I think we've got a ton of information, a ton of emotion out, but a lot of information that should take people's hearts and minds to a better place about a really negative topic. And that's really hard to do, is to take this information and turn it into something positive. But that's what each and every one of you do every day. Because the only way to look at helping someone out of a situation is to bring the positiveness out of at least seeking help. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Joan? Oh, wait. I muted you. My fault. Go ahead.
There. Thank you. So I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to my amazing volunteers, and also how important it is that we continue to get more, build more of a greater team of volunteers. We can't do this all on our own, and we need more help, and we need more support from other men and women. We do, because most of our clients are women. We do need more women, and of different ages, ethnicities, languages. We have a full Spanish speaking gal that's from Ecuador that's on our team as well. Latanya does, I just want to say some things about our outreach, because this is where we really need more volunteers, as well as being on the hotline. We're 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We are there. And this is our big season from Halloween to Super Bowl Sunday. Football season, and especially as football season advances, men get upset when their teams lose. And so we get more and more calls on Sundays and holidays. Domestic violence happens on Easter, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So we cover all the holidays, and we can't do it alone. So we really would love to have more people working with us. So this is our busiest time of year, is starting from Halloween all the way through Super Bowl Sunday. So we need more help. We need to get people trained. We need to get people on board supporting us. There are different ways to volunteer. We usually start them off just helping with the office, going on some outreach events, and then seeing if they are really passionate and can do this work. Not everyone can do this work. And it takes a really special gift. These women have superpowers, and you've already seen their superpowers. One is much more quiet, and her superpower is listening, and another one is emotional, and the other one is strong. She has no qualms about defending an advocate and making sure she's getting what she needs from that, whether in the hospital, and working with law enforcement. And Latanya's out there always being resources, and what's next, and what else is possible. So we do a lot of work. We just, so that we're spread out pretty thin. We go to Friendship Senior Center. We work with seniors. We work with, I have a volunteer that goes with me, and we do a couple of them that do Loveland. So we work with adults with disabilities. We go to the food bank. We go to and work with the impoverished communities, St. Vincent de Paul, the food bank, the Homeless Coalition, Florida Southwestern. We go to the colleges. I'm trying to think of all the different places that you all go. NAACP, we've gone and we work with NAACP. We go to the event that they have on Martin Luther King Day. We're going to be making sure we follow up with that. We have the human trafficking event, which John, you'll be hosting on. I sent you the information, January 18th at the Charlotte Event Center. So that's coming up. We have Care Auxiliary. So if you love to fundraise, if you like having fun raising money, join the Care Auxiliary. They've got a Party for a Cause coming up on December 4th. Call us if you want to do it. We've got the gala coming up. It is 40 years of care, 36 balls. If you want to dress up and look gorgeous and put on the pretty gown, then this is an event for you, and spend lots of money. So we need donations. Christmas is coming up. We have a Christmas store for all of our clients, which includes toys and things for young adults and women and men. And we've got a lot of things coming up, decorating. We're doing the Christmas parade in Punta Gorda. And all of this requires volunteers, and it costs money. So feel free to either, if you can't show up, you can donate money, you can donate toys, you can donate resources. You can just be here with us and join our team and give me a call. Just call CARE at the numbers that we've been scrolling down below. 941-639-5499. Ask for Joan, volunteer coordinator, and you can email us through go through our websites, and our website, carefl.org. So thank you. This is why I do it too. I mean, I love working with the clients, and I love my volunteer team. They're the greatest, along with the staff.
Each and every one of you, have a thank you from this side for being a vital part and for being part of the show. I, couldn't have this kind of emotion and this kind of, I think, the power of the calling, um, to be a volunteer first off, and who each and every one of you are, is a draw into the volunteering side of things, because it takes like they do at Sarasota Memorial, it takes a great volunteer staff to encourage more people to volunteer and do great things. And each and every one of you have shown that magnetism to really draw more people to volunteer, and turn something really that could be negative into a positive. And I think that's the key to this. And I use that all day long. Stop working on the negative side of things, and try to figure out how to turn them into positives. And Pat, your story, Latanya, your story, Tracy, your background, and Marcia, your story. Um, they're all truly based upon recognizing, um, and then turning whatever you had to do into a positive outcome, and then truly affecting other people in a positive way. Because I think it's the only way you lift people up. But Joan, I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to next month because it should be fun. I'm truly looking forward to the symposium, and I can't wait to host for the second year. I couldn't believe I got asked the first time, and I couldn't say no the second time immediately, on doing that, because there's a lot of great information that will happen in January. I would highly suggest anybody who is not really sure what human trafficking is, uh, how it affects not just adults, but how it affects children, that they go down and they check it out. It is not just for the ones that have been involved in it. It is truly meant to educate the public and open your eyes to what truly is happening in our state and around the country and around the world. So keep that in mind. And we will definitely be talking more about that, won't we, Joan?
Yes, we will.
All right. So thank you so much for listening in. Please share this video. The content is vital to someone out there. So make sure you get it in the right hands, and we can do that by sharing with everyone. So you guys have a great day. Thank each and every one of you for being part of the show. This is John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio saying thanks and have a great day.